Hey,
And this is Geek Tank.
your sometimes spaceships explode size podcast.
Man, that's so sad when that happens.
hmm Or funny, depending on if you want to laugh at the person.
That's true. That's true. So we have
Yep.
yet another glorious episode of Geek Tank, of which we did not come in here with a plan. We did
Yeah.
start talking though about DPCC, which is now called Fan Expo, which is one of the kind of waypoints. And I feel like every time DCC, DPCC, Fan Expo comes up on our cycle of things, I feel kind of like I want to talk a little bit about like the history of Geek Tank as well,
hmm
because we started there now 12 years ago.
Yeah, we started when it was Denver Comic Con.
Yeah.
And
But this particular year has an interesting, I don't know, an interesting, not a dubious, but it happened to come up at the same time as the 2014 one, same time of year.
Mhm.
There's a hair right in the way. So, which means that my Facebook memories were starting to replay us getting prepped for our first Comic Con. And that was interesting. It was a very interesting thing to see. Because it was fascinating to kind of look through that and see how far we've come.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I remember when we very first started with Denver Comic Con, they had a pretty good media liaison team that we worked with, and they got us a couple of good interviews. One
yeah,
of them being with the guys that were in the movie Monster Squad
right.
and such. And I feel like the very next year was not quite as opening, but we at least they still reached out to us and gave us media passes. And then it was about the third or fourth year after it had switched names because I forget what it became after Denver Comic Con, but then it became
Denver Pop Culture Con.
Denver Pop Culture Con. So about the time they made that change is when they started doing the if you do not have 10,000 followers, we're not giving you a pass
Right.
type thing. And so we fell to the wayside there. And then they switched again from Pop Culture Con to, I believe, Fan Expo was the next step, or it might have
Yeah.
been something in between.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
And the policy, if possible, probably got even more stricter, where it's like you have to have X number of fans, followers, plus you need to have recommendations or something like that. Which that's fine. I'm sure they want to try to get the best bang out of their free media passes as they can, which means getting sources that have all the viewers, so they will get the word out.
Right.
So I'm not bitter about that. I get that. That's fine. It's just not where we are, so we could not be a part of that. And we started directing more energy towards Starfest at that time because their media team was amazing. And
Yep. So
um,
amazing that NDK stole them.
yeah, I don't know if you can steal them if they've been like if the ship blows up and they're floating in the water. I don't know if you're stealing it from a ship if the ship already blew up. But
See, this is the second time you referred to blowing up ships. I'm
yeah, I
just
know.
you have a thing going.
Bezos blew up a ship, so
Yeah. So
giant explosion on Thursday evening.
yeah,
Me,
it was
so,
pretty epic too. Like it torched everything. Um,
if you're gonna blow up a ship, might as well make it the biggest explosion possible, right?
yeah.
Yeah, they brought in Michael Bay for it. Uh, but in any case, yeah, going on to cons, but I've never been a fan of insanely huge conventions, especially when they start becoming about the money and not about the experience. And I've not been back to Fan Expo for a very long time, but we still have friends and cosplayers that go there, and you were just there as
I was there too.
there.
I
And
was working Iacon's table.
yeah, so you weren't really getting the experience of what an attendee would have since you
No.
weren't walking around trying to get into everything. Um,
Although I did, but they just kept chewing me out because I was like a mouse or something like that.
yeah,
Get out of
like,
here! Why
get
are
back
you?
to your table.
Stop playing with the spaceships. Yeah,
How'd you get the chains off your leg? Get back to that
right.
table. But yeah, I'd heard some pretty unfavorable things about it, and just pulling up a quick list of stuff that fans had expressed complaints about the haphazard panel management. From what I understand, the programming guide did not officially get locked in until like 7 or 9 days before the actual con, and there
Yep.
were a lot of conflicts with panels that people wanted to go to.
Yep, that actually was something that our team had a problem with, as in Iacon's team. Um,
And yeah, people who had done the paid panels had already paid for panels before they'd been scheduled, and then they got scheduled opposite. So now they're going to have to go through the struggle of getting their money back for the panels they couldn't go to, if
right.
that's even going to be possible. Um, I heard there was a lack of ADA accommodations. I don't know any more details about that. Um, and that just the overall atmosphere was more corporate feel and really got rid of the heart community focused feel. So, which kind of saw the writing on the wall, I guess.
Well, and there is a to be fair part of this that kind of goes with it. Um, One of the problems that has plagued anybody who works at the convention center is that they are union only.
Mm-hmm.
And so you either have only union people there doing the jobs, or you have no one doing any jobs, which is fine. I'm actually relatively pro union most of the time, except in this one instance, it does mean you have an army of 300 people who have just no clue about what's going on. And they just march around and do stuff all the time in the middle of this, in a culture that has routinely had volunteers doing those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it a very different atmosphere, and it feels extremely different when you're dealing with that. And that's not a knock against union workers. It's just that usually, the people who are working at the convention center, those are the people who that's their day job. They go there every day and set up tables and move people around and organize stuff, and that's their day job. That's what they do. I was struck by this as I walked around the convention center and walked, because I had to go. I found the coolest parking not glitch, but
Mm-hmm.
slip circuit that I could ever come up with, which was I parked at one of the far lots at MSU,
Mm-hmm.
and MSU is right across the street. So the far lots were too far from the things that were happening on campus. So there was a day rate of $10.
Ah.
It was like, well, and I'm a student, so I got the discount day rate. I'm sure the day rate was 20, but I
Mm-hmm.
got the student discount because I was a student. So for both days that I parked there, it was 24 hours for $10. And I was like, well, I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I
There's a
had to
tip
walk
for
from the campus, but that just means crossing Spear. That wasn't a big deal.
anyone that's going to go to a convention center thing. Keep that in mind. You can
Yeah.
park on campus for
Especially if you guys are students.
$20 if you're not, $10 if you are. Apparently.
Yeah. But that was a cool thing, and that was neat. But while I was walking around the building, I noticed rooms up there that had little, like, tchotchkes up in the window, little cactuses and pictures and picture frames. And it really did occur to me, that's right. There are people who this is their day job. This is what they do every day.
Mm-hmm.
They come to work at the convention center and go upstairs, sit at their little desk and type at whatever their little, and then do their things and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very different. I mean, it's not like that's not true of the Gaylord. It's just that the Gaylord is a hotel. So, yes, there's a convention center on the Gaylord, but the people who are at the Gaylord working the Gaylord they're people coming in from airplane flights and leaving on flights and passing through Denver and stopping there for this and doing that and doing the other. They've got a different job that's going on. The convention center's full job is to hold conventions. And that's fascinating to me, but it also means that, yeah, the attitude on that floor will always be different than what we're used to, because we're used to dealing with hotels. And so,
And geek conventions are a completely different critter than non-geek conventions
yeah, I
because
just had this experience actually.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, you did. So you went to a non-geek convention, and
I totally did.
it
It
was
was so weird.
so much less work. Um,
Yeah,
I would venture. I mean, there's still a lot of work, but in a completely different capacity because you're not trying to manage mobs of crowds trying to get autographs. You're just trying to manage different companies wanting to get their product and their services out there so people know
right.
about them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for those of you who are not sure what we were referring to, I went to um, the Society for Applied Anthropology convention in Albuquerque. Which, by the way, as a side note, I would like to add, I was watching a TV show called Pluribus, which actually it sounds like this isn't connected, but Pluribus takes place in Albuquerque, and there's this scene where she goes up to the top of this hotel and goes outside to look over the city, and I'm like, that was the hotel I was at like 2 months ago. That's so weird. That was a funny side. Anyway, that's just an aside.
Mhm.
But yeah, this was a normal convention like normal people do, and I've never been to one. I have literally, I'm like sitting there, thinking we're going to a convention. Which Starfleet uniform should I pack? And the funniest part was I made that joke in our little group of anthropologists, and the lead professor, this you know, very upstanding professor, looked at me and she goes, I'm actually shocked you didn't. Why didn't you? I was like, I didn't expect that would have been appropriate. And she goes, I don't know. I can't imagine why anybody would think it wouldn't be.
Mhm.
But I would have felt really out of place being in a Starfleet uniform. Um, and speaking of scenes that are very similar to that, I did have one that was very similar to that at Fan Expo, except in reverse. I had done an interview with an Amachi survivor earlier that day, um, and a lovely, lovely lady, and I'm so glad to know her. And she's such a wonderful human being. And but afterwards, we decided to just walk across the street and go to FanX. But I was still wearing a shirt that said MSU Denver Dad, because that's the shirt that I bought, because it's supposed to be for the parents of all the kids that are at MSU Denver. But I thought it was particularly funny because I am a MSU Denver student and a dad.
Mhm.
So I was particularly humored by this particular shirt. No problem. But I'm wearing this shirt, and I've got my badge for getting into the buildings hanging off my belt, because I've got one of those little lanyard things for my badge. So I've got my MSU badge, and I'm wearing this shirt that says MSU Dad, and I'm walking with two of the other anthropologists who are in their 20s. And so kind of looks like I'm the dad taking my kids to FanX. And
Mhm.
all of these people are giving me looks like, oh, how sweet of you to go to Fan Expo for your kids. And I was like, well, let me tell you. Especially since one of them had never been before. So this was his very first convention experience ever. And so it was even funnier that, they're all looking at me like, oh, you poor thing getting stuck here at this convention, for and then of course the last day that I was there, I of course went in uniform. So
Mhm.
then they were like, everybody was looking at me like, oh, it's one of us.
Mhm.
He's normal. I just think that's a particularly humorous concept.
Yeah, the couple of non-geek conventions I've been to as a guest of Tara, since she goes to various business conventions, it's interesting because there's not a huckster's room, dealer's room, whatever you want to call it, exhibition room. The ones
Eh,
I've been to, there's never a here's a bunch of booths trying to sell you stuff. It's
right,
always here's a bunch of tables and everything is free because it has their logo on it,
right.
or it comes with a business card and they're trying to get you to get their business cards.
I thought that was kind of interesting too. You're right.
So the drastic difference of we're here because we want to make money because we have some kind of business, whether it's making geek T-shirts, selling toys, whatever. That's mainly what you get when you go to any geek convention with their dealer's room.
Right.
So none of that at the other conventions like that.
Well, and in a way that kind of makes me think about that. Like, kind of makes me ponder, what was the transition like?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there was once a time where conventions were like that. You went and you put your business cards out, and there were business cards everywhere. So the very first conventions must have had, like, the dealers' rooms must have been fascinatingly small. Like just guys sitting there going, we sell stuff here in town that you'd like,
So if this is accurate, the first World Science Fiction Convention, WorldCon, took place in New York City, 1939.
Yep,
Famously
39.
introducing,
39
famously
World
introduced costume, fan costuming, precursor to cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Comic books, New York Comic Con, 1964, and the first Gen Con, 1968. First San Diego Comic Con, 1970. So, of course, back in those days, just like when we were going to conventions, you would find 80% of the stuff in the dealer's room was stuff you would not find going into local stores.
Right.
So it was your only source to find a lot of that stuff.
That's true. Hey, Brent, we have fear now. We're talking about conventions specifically. Kind of the history of them. For example, we were at FanX, or I was at FanX, and we were just talking about that. Aren't you here? Speaking of here.
Did you not come
here?
I was kind of wondering that when we started the podcast. I was remembering last time that
last time it seemed like we had a
mention of when Fan Expo was going on. Or have you been and left already?
Yeah. Are you now heading back home now that because we could go get food or something, lunch together, but now we can't because you've gone home already? Oh yeah, that's probably absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
I will accept that.
It's not my fault, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely my fault. I will take ownership of that.
Last weekend. Okay. Had I known that, I would have had you come to the variety show.
Exactly.
Since that guy won't show up.
I hate you. That's why. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Let's see.
I've always.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way of getting away from the capitalism of conventions that are going that route. And I think we're just lucky so far that NDK hasn't. But a big part of that's NDK being a nonprofit convention helps in that aspect, and that the big money aspect of it is as they call it, the exhibitors room, which all of us still call the dealer's room, even though that's officially not the name anymore.
Yeah, it's because it keeps getting called exhibitionist room.
Yeah, but but that's individuals in there selling their stuff, so you expect that. But it's I think there's only a couple of things that have an additional fee. Like, does the burlesque show have an additional fee? I can't remember.
It does, yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that.
Yeah,
not the least of which is to prevent people from getting into it. I don't think that there's a fee to it, though. I think no, there might be. I don't remember.
But and then the raves, I believe they charge for that. But the vast majority of stuff, once you have your convention pass, it's absolutely free to go to. So it's
Granby being so low that is just killing me. We're slowly losing all of it up here in Colorado.
Good thing we're not just an audio only podcast, because everybody listening would be going, what is Guy talking about? That is entirely off topic.
I know. I'm completely responding to Brett, who's chatting and saying things. So, but yeah. So back to kind of what we were talking about before, because it is kind of fascinating to me. I was like, I would be fascinated to kind of think about the way that the older conventions had gone.
Hmm.
I do have a memory of StarCon, Starfest, but and to what you were saying, you had just said something very interesting and important,
Hmm.
which is the commentary about how it was the only place you could buy a thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are things that I bought at the original StarCon Starfests that are collector's items now because you can't get those. They were made by some company that was shut down by Paramount for making, illegal doodly wops or whatever. You
Hmm.
couldn't make these, so that was kind of a thing. I mean, for example, I have a Phaser One, a TNG Phaser One, which was made off of the original mold of the Phaser Ones that were a production prototype. So it's not actually the ones they used in the show. The ones they used in the show are completely different, but they had made, well, not completely different. They're, in fact, they would be Trekkie different, as in the layman would never be able to identify the difference between the two, but any Trekkie goes, "Oh, that's one of those pre-production ones that they had made." Where before everybody went, let's make it a little shorter, and let's make it a little this, and let's make it a little that, and let's because they were holding it in their hands and being able to go, okay, now I see how this feels. So yeah, let's try a different concept. So it's one of the early prototypes that was made for that purpose, and that's an interesting thing. It's a prop that you can't find. You just can't
Hmm.
find it anywhere. Um, I mean, now obviously in the modern era, you can print them, and you can because their phaser ones are only this long, so it's not like they're super big. Um, but that was the other thing. That was where you'd first start seeing slash,
Hmm.
and slash fiction is a fascinating subsection of just about everything. No, I didn't actually. My brain bug, which referencing we're talking about. Oh gosh, I hit it. I hit it for myself so I wouldn't find it. Is over here. For those of you who are wondering what we are talking about, I will show you. Because this is an actual casting of a SETI eel, which is the creature in Star Trek 2 that climbs into Chekhov's ear. But this is they made 5 or 6 of these and designed them, and it's made of foam. So the idea was that it was a puppet. They hollowed out the center section and they had it crawling around under the dirt. And then whenever Ricardo Montalban puts those little clamps nearby, it jumps up and grabs the clamps right here with the little thingies, and then he pulls the babies out of right back here. Right. Sorry. I love my SETI eel. But I have to keep it in a box, otherwise I'm afraid one of the cats will chew on it.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're delicious to cats.
yeah, but no, I got that guy from the actual guy who worked in the production shop, who for some reason ended up settling here in Colorado, and then one day was having a garage sale. Like I happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Hmm.
Went to his garage. He was selling everything. And I was like, is that a SETI eel? And he's like, yeah, we made 5 of them and we only needed to use 2. So these are the other 3. And one of them got destroyed and and there are only 2 left. And so I bought one and Ian bought one. And
Hmm.
so he sold them to me for $20 each. And I was like, oh man, it's like one of the best things ever.
Hmm.
So I have an original SETI eel from Star Trek 2. One of those random, and I'm afraid to do anything to it. You know what I mean? Like Like it's still got the rubber casting. You still got the casting flash all over it here, like between all of its legs and stuff
You
like
need
that.
a 3D scan it so you can make STL out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, you can tell when you look at the prop, the even like the little ridges in here and everything like that are all the same. So this is clearly the exact same prop.
Mhm.
So, but yeah. Anyway, um, I'm like, did you get your brain bug from there? Yes, I did. Um, so but that was the other thing that is a big thing about those conventions was being
Mhm.
able to do those things. But I
Yeah, it
was
was your main source. Like when they would have the video rooms, you would see stuff that would not be shown on American television or in American theaters.
it's the first time I ever saw the blooper reels to anything. The infamous Star Trek blooper reel was a staple
Mhm.
of original Star Trek conventions. Um, and the blooper reels mostly filled with people walking into doors because that was a common thing to do in Star Trek. You had to walk towards all of those doors and hope that they would open. And sometimes the guys would be late pulling the little rope that opened the doors for you. And so you'd walk up to it and the doors wouldn't open. I think the most interesting thing, by the way, about the evolution of Star Trek is that in the original series there was two guys pulling a rope. By next gen there were still two guys pulling a rope, but by the time you got to Voyager,
Mhm.
some of those doors actually had a sensor and were opening by themselves. And so they were actually doing that. The problem that they found was that they
People would
didn't
miss their
have
mark.
drama.
I was gonna say people would miss their mark and it would open accidentally.
Yeah, that's it. Or if you ever watch Star Trek, one of the funniest things about Star Trek, well, I mean, if you ever watch Star Trek, I say that like nobody watches Star Trek.
I don't even know
Um,
what it is.
Next time, yeah, exactly. Next time you guys are watching Star Trek, one of the funniest things to watch is do the thing of trying to see this scene from the point of view of that door,
Hmm.
because there's so many times where they will, walk over to the door and they'll turn back and go, "But Captain, one last thing," and then turn and the doors then open and go out. Like the doors are aware they're going to say one last thing. And so the doors are like, wait for it, wait for it. Like training doors, doors training other doors. They're like, no, don't open yet. Now open.
Hmm.
I always thought that was particularly humorous as well. Um, so, but that's a ongoing, entertaining piece of information. So
Did you happen to see any of our sponsors at Fan Expo?
I did. No, actually, I don't think I did. But I'm sure Kieran Games was there. But let's go on ahead and talk about them anyway.
Yeah, because
Because
they were.
Geek Tank is definitely sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and your
Your
mom.
mom. Did I just change stuff, or does that look different when I do that to you as well, or is that just on my screen?
What are you talking about?
Okay, you would notice because it keep changing. I can go to portrait view and see what it looks like for a portrait.
Oh, no, I've
Okay.
got portrait view next to landscape. It's actually kind of cool because the crawler seems to be crawling all the way across to both of them,
Mhm.
but they're different words,
Yeah,
which is making it funnier.
I don't think I need them both.
They're very funny. I'm entertained by that. Babylon 5. The year is 2259. The name of the place, Babylon 5. Dang, dang, dang,
They
dang, dang.
talk too much. They just babble on.
Yep. Babylon 5 was one of my staples too.
Hmm.
I love Babylon 5. So, yeah, that's a interesting thing. I don't know. I find all of that to be fascinating. I keep thinking a lot about
Yeah, how's that
how.
gonna? How's counter conventions gonna change? Because they got to start changing, right?
Yeah, I guess they do.
I mean,
I guess they do, but how would they?
it's definitely when you lose the volunteers because they're the people who love what they do,
Yeah.
as opposed to doing it for the money. When you lose that aspect of it, it definitely changes the feel of the convention,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you no longer really need to go there to buy stuff unless you're buying like the artesian stuff, the things that are made by the local vendors who are handcrafting things, as opposed to ordering it off the internet because you could order it off the internet yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why this year the Artist Alley grew by 300 tables.
that makes
And,
sense because it's stuff you can't get other places.
right. And I mean, legitimately speaking, like every time I go there, I'm not finding stuff. I mean, I did find stuff, but the stuff that I actually end up purchasing is usually interesting and different dice to add to
Mhm.
my already robust collection of dice. Um, and this time was no different. I found a dice vendor who had reproductions of the first 20 siders
Hmm.
found in Greece, and I would have bought them, but they were $100 each. I'm like, wow, a little rich. I mean, not to complain, it would definitely be worth every last dime, but still, that's a little steep.
Hmm.
So, no question that it would be worth it.
Hmm.
Right, meeting cosplayers is a definite plus. Says Brent,
Hmm.
because that's a
Which
good point.
which means having cosplayer friendly environment,
Yes.
spaces that they can take cosplay photos without it looking like a mess or getting overcrowded would be important. um, I don't know if Fan Expo offered this. I'm guessing they did, but I really don't know. But I know that NDK offers a cosplay emergency room.
Yep.
So if you're a cosplayer and something goes wrong with your costume, there's a place you can go to get supplies and to try to do. Is it cosplay triage? Is that what they call it?
Yep.
I
It's
can't remember.
cosplay triage. Yep.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, yeah. I remember the name. Um, but I think you want to make the environment friendly to your attendees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely one of the more interesting aspects of conventions when you're talking about like cosplayers, artists. It's a but then I think about on the other side of it, how do you pay your bills?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you can't the tables at FanX are notoriously expensive for
Yeah.
the weekend. They're $500 or something ridiculous. So you've got to get in there with your, cute little artsy art of, whatever.
When you table, what's the most expensive thing you have on your table? Like the price,
Anytime I do sketch covers,
and what's the price?
and I would usually charge $50 for that,
Okay, so you need to do at least 10 of your highest cost items to just break even.
just to break even.
And that's not counting the cost of gas, the cost of parking, all of that.
Right. And the term we usually use is make table. That's the term
Mhm.
we will use. So, as in we made table. That means we made the cost of being here. And um, that doesn't, and that's everything you were just talking about,
Mhm.
gas and parking and everything like that's called making table. And so if we make table, all of us like, yay, good job. Just because anything above that's profit, right?
Mhm.
And it's so rare. I know a couple of buddies. I had a couple of buddies who were tabling, and I'm curious as to whether they made table. Um, it's I don't. I'm just wondering whether they made table. I know that the table that I was working was a convention table. So since the people at the convention table were doing panels, they got the table for free.
Mhm.
But it was in the little section over in the corner for all the people who are tabling and happen to have a convention in town, which means there was like four of us. So you had like kind of a rare combo of things. It wasn't a lot. We were actually over there with the Ghostbusters and stuff like that, which did, by the way, lead to a very funny situation. I love telling stories like this because these are great stories. But uh, my buddy KG was there, and she was like, "Hey, are you going to be bringing a phone charger?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to be there till 3:30 or 4 because I was interviewing this person." And I said, "So I'm not going to be there till 3:30 or 4." And she's texting me at 9:30, and I'm like, "If your phone's already dead at 9 connection, now we're
And
back
someone must be launching the house.
again."
Yeah.
Because that said, "Oops, connection lost." Then it restored it. Anyway, so she texts me and says, I do you have that charger or whatever? And I said, I won't be there. I said, but go to the Starship because my Starship was there. I said, it's Trekkies. Trekkies. They're always going to have technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that we're known for. And I said, so go to the Starship. And I said, talk to the Admiral there because he's my buddy and tell him you're my friend and he'll figure it out. And she's like, okay, but where's the Starship? I said, well, you know where our table is. So you're going to go down past the horror room, past the zombie. You're going to need to take a right turn at the Ghostbusters, go down to where you see a Gorn in a Starfleet uniform. And I said, and that has to have been the weirdest set of instructions I have ever given in my life. I was like, that's such a normal thing to say at the convention. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Brent, whatever you were saying last got lost, so you may have
It is
to.
may be a good idea to split the cost among a couple of folks for
Okay.
referring to table costs, which I think you've done before. You've double tabled with people.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I usually double table until the day comes somewhere down the road where everybody is reading my comics and loving them, and I'm popular. I'm going to be probably double tabling with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Brent will be happy to know that I have been spending today doing a whole bunch of cool, interesting things for Bellatrix Rising.
Mm-hmm. So
exactly, they were perfect. They were perfect convention instructions. Like everybody understands that, and you really legitimately cannot miss the Ghostbusters because they always bring their vehicles, and the vehicles always have their lights flashing, so you cannot miss the Ghostbusters.
Since we're talking about conventions, I'll mention that coming up in a week, 2 weeks, Saturday, the 13th of June from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. is Spring Giving up in Broomfield Community Center by the Gamers Giving group. And it looks like general tickets is $18, 19 bucks. General tickets. Or no, I'm sorry, Pioneer tickets. Can't call them general tickets. They're civilians. Then there's activity admission tickets, which are a little more, but includes activity tickets. So I guess it's a combination of some stuff's free, but then some things will require a ticket to do it. I know I've been asked inadvertently through the person who runs the Denver Crokinole Club for me to go there and run some Crokinole, but I haven't officially locked in anything, so I don't know. So I think I will be there running Crokinole, but I don't know.
You don't want to say it, and then
I don't want to say it until somebody who's official has said to me, "You're going to have a space here to run Crokinole at this time." Then I'll say it because.
Right. And the answer to your question, Brent, is yes, I actually am. But there's going to be some fun redesigning coming in first because I had a different thought process. So that was a thing I had been thinking about for this entire time. I've been brewing on stuff. But one of the things I was thinking about was like how our hallways should be. Which is why I'm redesigning a hallway right now.
Episodes of hallways.
So, my comic books are done as issues and episodes. Mm-hmm. And so what Brent is talking about is that my comic books issue 1 of the episode 1, issue 1 of episode 1 was my original comic that I put out. Mm-hmm. And so there are 3 issues in that episode. And so there's an issue 2 and an issue 3, which is what Brent's referring to.
Okay, you got lots of issues.
I have so many that there are volumes.
Yeah.
I have entire volumes. So, but that's literally what we're talking about. So, and thank you also, Brent, for referring to it properly. I mean, like, that's pretty cool, actually. You know, I mean,
Yep.
I expect no less of Brent, but still, you know, it's kind of nice that, you know, Brent's referring to it in its correct form. So,
Yep. So I got to catch you up on
uh-oh.
the boys because you're a couple of seasons behind, just finished, and
I hear you now.
okay. As I say, I saw you freeze, so
And
something
I don't
locked
know
up.
if it's yours or mine. Since you're the one that can still see all of the things that Brent wrote before, I think it was mine.
Ah, okay.
And the reason why I'm thinking that is because we're having some still leftover lightning storms up here.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I was saying the boys had finished, so I need to catch you up before you get too much spoiled for you.
right. Well, the good news is I'm not really that embedded in boys.
Yeah, but
World.
there's things that are more fun if you get to experience during the show as opposed to knowing it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually had a anti spoiler, which I was very happy, and I'm not going to give any. I'm not going to give any names, but it's like the way the spoiler was presented and the way somebody had complained about something. I thought, well, great, now I know X is going to happen because they're complaining about this.
Right.
And then the entire episode, I'm waiting for it to happen, and it never happened. I'm like, oh, they're just idiots. And they phrased it horribly wrong, and I misunderstood the way they phrased it. So I was really glad nothing was actually spoiled for me. But yeah, they're already working on for next year Vault Rising, which is going to take place several years before the events of The Boys.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of theories. I assume certain things are going to happen. I mean, but I'm not gonna go too deep into that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
But yeah, so I think if people don't care, try to lock in the next few Fridays just to be binging that and
Yeah.
Kevin and yourself.
sounds like a plan that involves binging that,
Mm-hmm.
which is good by me.
So I started rewatching the series again since it finished, and also looking up some trivia. And I thought it was really hilarious to find out that I don't know if you remember the scene because it's early on in season 1, but and if you haven't seen season 1 yet,
Spoiler alert! Wait,
spoiler alert!
I got this. I got this.
Do it. There you go.
Yeah.
Spoiler. It's very, very small though. It needs to be like
I know, right? We got to figure out a better way to
flashing
do
red.
this.
It needs to be huge, just right
Can we make it-
there.
No, we can't really make it. Oh,
Lame.
really not that.
But
I haven't seen Project Hail Marys. Don't say anything.
But it involves Homelander and the Deep, and Homelander talking to one of the main people, and he's like, "Well, they did this on purpose because," and like, "How do you know?" He's like, "The Deep. What can't I see through? Zinc, Homelander. And what's the box made out of?" And there's this long pause, and you see the Homelander kind of starting to look over his shoulder at him, and the Deep goes, "Zinc?" And he's like, "Yes, you're correct." It turns out the actor forgot his line.
Oh,
So he legitimately was pausing because he had like a brain fart of what his next line was, even though it was extremely obvious what his next line should have been.
but it
And
makes
you
it perfect.
It makes it perfect. You can see the Homelander, the actor's face of like, what's taking him so long? He's supposed to have just said it immediately after I asked. And you can see him trying not to crack up too. and they left it in. So I thought that was really great that they did that. Yeah, it's fun learning about all of the improvised stuff and the mix-ups is that they left in. Like there's a scene where Butcher's trying to use the analogy of the Matrix, and he's talking about the pills, and he's got the colors wrong, and he's halfway through it, and he goes, or was it the red pill? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is, and it was the actor actually had forgotten which color pill was which. and he just worked it into his character. So it's
Sometimes those are the best. So that's I love. One of the other things is, isn't Homelander British?
Homelander is British,
I
and
mean, the actor.
Homelander's the actor for Homelander is British. The actor for Butcher is not.
No, the actor for Butcher is actually, for
Carl
the
Urban.
first time, Carl Urban's actually speaking in his native accent, which is kind of cool because that is what he is. He's New Zealand or Australian, or so he's got that really rough and tumble accent, which is funny because I never knew that until I heard him doing interviews for Star Trek, of all things, because that's the first time I saw him, because he was doing, he's McCoy in the Kelvin verse, and I didn't know, and I was sitting there going, he's Australian. It's just like Jeb Bush is that way too. So the Jess Bush is that way, who plays Christine Chapel in Strange New Worlds. Nurse Chapel has an American accent, but Jess Bush does not. She's very much Australian, New Zealand, that accent group. But yeah, Homelander is always, to see that actor say anything is like, it hurts so bad. So it's really funny. Speaking of things where I had a thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, ad-libbing. There was I was listening to a podcast. I know I'm bringing it back to Star Trek. You guys are all shocked. Everybody here is shocked that I'm bringing this back to Star Trek, but here we go. There's a podcast out there where there's a couple of them now done by a couple of the actors of Star Trek, and I listen to them, like Seventh Rules one, the Decon Chamber is another, and recently Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner have started one called Dropping Names, and the whole thing is about them, who they've met throughout their career, like all these people, and it's kind of funny. Yeah, he has to wear heels to get that height right. That's really funny. But it's funny that they mentioned that, because they were talking about on Decon Chamber, which is Connor Trenier and oh, come on, it's Connor Trenier, whom I have met, and Malcolm Reynolds, or not God dang it, I'm getting my names screwed up again. So I have now gotten the other one's name is Malcolm Reynolds. That's not true. So it'll take me a second here. I'll get it. But I'm getting that aphasia where another name has come up and it's not the right name, and I can't shake it. It's a good podcast. Yeah, it is. So they're interviewing Jonathan Frakes, and they also have they have Jonathan Frakes on there, and he's talking about all the different Star Treks he's done, because Jonathan Frakes directs a lot of the Star Treks now. But he was on Lower Decks, and he was like, and I'm sitting there on Lower Decks, and we're doing this scene, and I've got Tawny and Jack, right? Yeah. So yeah, right. I'm not Nathan Fillion. That one's another good podcast he does too.
I think you're referring to the Malcolm that's in Enterprise, right?
Yes, it's Malcolm Reed, and that's why I'm getting them confused, and now I cannot think of his name, the actor's name, because I'm getting Malcolm Reynolds, and that's not what I want. So
Dominic Keaton.
Dominic Keating. Oh my God, sorry, Dom.
I had to look it up.
Anyway, thank you. They're interviewing. And honest, if Dominic Keating is listening to this particular show, which I doubt, should he ever do so, just understand that this was an autistic and aphasia moment, not that I don't know your name and I do know Connor.
But you do need to send a clip of you pointing your finger accusingly at guys, so we can add it to our clip of Chekhov getting you really good. So.
Man, that was brutal. Anyway, But they were talking about the first time that those two just started rolling right off the script, and they would just go on and on and on. And Jonathan Frakes is looking over at Mike McMahon, who's the showrunner of Lower Decks, and Mike's looking back and shrugging, and they're all laughing, and everybody's just having a great time. And he's like, they could just ad lib, and they would just keep adding things in there. Yeah, it's Jack and Tawny, who Jack Quaid is also in The Boys, which that's an important thing now. Anyway, Jack and Tawny are just going on and ad lib all these things, and he was saying that in this podcast, and Dominic Keating is saying, on Star Trek, we can't ad lib. How are they ad libbing? And he goes, I know, right? It's like, but they just let them go, and the stuff they came up with was so much better. So they just let him go with it. And I thought that was funny because it is interesting how improv plays a certain value to comedy, and it always will. You know, it's got a very sharp, because letting the actor break the fourth wall without breaking the fourth wall is such an amazingly valuable thing, because these actors get to know these characters far better than the writers can in a general sense, because what you kind of have is a teamwork thing where the actor that's playing Homelander knows Homelander better than all the writers, because writer A wrote this script and writer B wrote this script and writer C wrote this script. And so even though they've kind of got them all in a good sort of pattern, you know, it's a known thing that Brent Spiner was the one that would always catch things like contractions and stuff like that, because he knew the Data couldn't say contractions, something established in the first season and somewhat abandoned as time went on. But yeah, so still funny. All of that to say, really love whenever actors go off onto tangents. It's so very useful. I should have a bell for all the names I just dropped in this one. Bing, bing, bing. Okay, that's a funny thing if you're...
I think if you're just saying names, it doesn't quite count. But
well, that's a joke from the Dropping Names podcast. Every time they drop a name, they ring like a bell, the bell that you would have at, you know, like at the desk, main desk. Bing! You just tap at bells. So anyway, that's I'm dominating the show. I don't mean to.
No, you can't control yourself, so it's just how it goes.
Right.
Your brain does not think in terms of dialogue, just monologue.
Yep. Well, that's why I'm leaving you room now to dialogue.
Okay. But yeah, it's definitely his New Zealand accent is a much more toned down version of his hardcore Cockney British accent. As Butcher, Carl Urban, that is. He's playing in the new Mortal Kombat movie.
Mortal Wombat.
Yeah. So, which is not an actor I would have expected to be cast in that, but cool. So.
Right.
I believe it's Johnny Cage is who he's playing. Yep. I had to look it up just to make sure.
He's playing Johnny Cage, really?
Yep. He's playing Johnny Cage.
That's a thing.
Sunglasses and everything. So I'm
sure he explains why I've seen so many Johnny Cages at the con.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So what are all the cosplays that you saw at the convention?
I saw the most fantastic Wolverine. Like the guy, he even had like the facial structure looked similar enough. You know what I mean? Like he looked close. So, and then he was carrying a cigar, and the entire time I saw him, he had the cigar. And I kept thinking, that's got to be like a plastic cigar or something, because it can't be a real one. It would have been soggy and gross by the time. I mean, like to think about it, he's like the entire time he's got this thing. But that was pretty cool. I saw a phenomenal Mondo. Like somebody had like a perfect Mando. So,
Mandalorian.
yep. And that was like really good. Saw a number of, yeah, the height was the height correct? Yeah, I don't know. He was pretty tall. But still, his outfit was perfect. There was a great Superman in the newer Superman armor uniform sort of thing, not the older Supermans, but then one's got the, you can see the patterning on it. That
Mhm.
Supergirl's now, her outfit's similar, which I thought was cool. Um, I saw a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters, which was cool for Wolverine. I don't know. I don't know. But he definitely looked the part. Um, there's a couple of them that were really. I did get to see one Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service. I don't know why, but it always warms my heart when I see somebody cosplaying as one of the older anime, or you know what I mean, like, that's always good. And then of course, I think the funniest part is the number of Trekkies that were there, because
Mhm.
you can always tell, we're always in some uniform, but there's so many uniforms in the Star Trek universe now that, it's like kind of cool to see all the different Trekkies in all their different uniforms. So that was neat. I wasn't there for a whole long time though. So,
Yeah. So Wolverine's original comic height was like 5'3".
right.
So
No, so this guy was not
shorter than Tom Cruise.
shorter than that's why they didn't get Tom Cruise to play the part.
Hmm.
Is that's it right there.
He would have been closer to the right height. But
Right, exactly.
before he went crazy, I always thought Clint Eastwood would make a great Wolverine. But
Clint was, yeah.
at least
Oh, Halo Spartan. That'd been cool.
I saw a video. There was a cosplay group of people cosplaying in the Helldivers 2 costumes with the flag and everything.
With
So
yeah, I didn't see those guys.
yeah,
So,
forced democracy.
right. So that was that. I don't know. It was kind of interesting. Anyway,
Yep.
I think building a Halo Spartan would be wild and complicated. Um, Kevin asked or called me tonight to see if I would be willing to help him go get the printer running again, which is a good thing to hear. Speaking of building and printing,
Yeah.
and stuff, because they want to get everything kind of started up on that. So that'd
Well,
be good.
as we're getting close to wrapping up, I will say Happy Pride Month to everybody out there.
Yep. Happy Pride, all of you.
Several years ago, I made our profile picture for Facebook a Geek Tank Pride flag, and actually, I've never changed it since then because
I was going to change it to today too, and then realized it hadn't been unchanged. So
yeah, and the main reason I didn't change it is because of all the different corporations and companies that only acknowledge it for like the first week, and some of them for the whole month. But then once it's done, they're just done,
yeah,
and it's like brushed under the rug. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm leaving it up.
fair. Well, but we've always been allies, so
Always, yeah,
I mean, that's not. I wouldn't imagine anybody would presume we weren't allies.
yeah.
And
This
and if you have been presuming that we aren't ally, then you haven't been watching the show,
never ever met us.
right? Like we are definitely ally. We're ally of everybody.
Yeah, maybe next month, after all these years, I'll finally let you change it back to the black and green.
Right. Right. After all this time.
All this time.
Yeah. But yeah. Yep. But still, happy Pride.
Yes.
What was it that one of our friends posted something that was just really freaking funny. Posted a picture from a Bible somewhere showing all of the animals getting onto Noah's Ark, and said, "Remember that God was the first one to start putting LGBT couples on the ark," and it showed two lions, clearly with both of them having manes going up. And then somebody else said, "This is why it's called Pride Month." And I was like, "Oh, see, that's just so many good things in that one post. It was just really silly and funny." I found that to be particularly humorous. So, shout out to our people for being
Yes.
silly and making me laugh on that particular comment. But yeah,
Hmm.
so anyway,
Yep.
that's
Alrighty.
neither here nor there. We're coming up on bedtime for Brent.
Hmm.
It's like a movie with Ronald Reagan.
Hmm.
Bedtime for Brent Zo. I don't know.
Sounds more like an anime.
Yeah, it does kind of
Brenzel.
Brent Zo. Yeah. Well, that happened.
Hmm.
All right.
All right.
That's all the
So
time we've got. And boy, it's probably good too.
for more Star
So,
Trek, it's talked about.
yep. Yep. Otherwise, I'm just going to get back onto Star Trek again. Can't
Hmm.
even like get me to stop. So, all right. Well, we will see you all next week. And until then, I've been Guy.